This thing doesn't have fucking handles. Okay.
Hello, world.
Hello.
How are you today? I'm going to go down a little. He's super short on this video. Hold on, I went too short, and now it's a boob shot. So sorry. Hey, this is Kimberly, Treacy, and
Conor, Treacy.
Over here at Big Red SEO. We are a married couple. Hey, Fiona, how are you? That has committed to come to you guys live every Friday to share the journey of a husband and wife team, as well as we do website design and SEO and pay-per-click specifically. Hey, Miles, how are you? So wanted to give you a quick recap. We've experienced more momentum on this thing than we thought was possible, which is super, super cool. And we're so glad that everybody keeps following us and continue bringing in the feedback and the recommendations of stuff you guys want to hear about. We've got kind of a lot on the list today. How are you? How are you today? It's very hot in Omaha.
Today has been a very rough day for me. It's 101 today. And of course, Miles, I mean, you're familiar with the Palm Springs, 127 degrees and whatnot. But it's been so long since I've had to deal with Palm Springs heat that 101 is kicking my ass right now.
Yeah.
So the last couple of days been okay, but you know, work-wise, heat-wise, I'm fried. I'm fried. I've got a very short fuse right now.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You've experienced that
in
most of the day.
In the back, it's kind of funny. We do live here sometimes. Yeah. In our office is a huge bay. And so we have, believe it or not, 2 air conditioners. So I don't know when they built this building, why they thought that was actually a good deal, but
the way the bay is set up, I mean, there's usually, well, if you look at everybody else who's in the strip, you've got a front part and then you've got a back bay with a garage door that gets in. So you may have the heat going on for the guys in the back, but the front office might have an AC. So there's 2 separate things.
I think at one point we did have a door, but somebody like closed it in. But either way, the whole point is it can be super cold in the front of the office and really hot in the back, or vice versa. Sometimes we get them to join in together, but I think you just knew it was going to be a hot day in general. So mentally you were just kind of in shutdown mode anyway. So and
it's Friday and 1,000 other things that are going on, but it is what it is.
So we wanted to share some feedback with that, right? Because we are a husband and wife team and we do work together a lot. I actually project manage a lot of Conor's time in helping him determine what tasks need to be done. I do tasks for the business as well. Nobody really manages me. Sometimes I wish that they would.
I'll tell you what to do.
Conor's really good at telling me what to do, but he doesn't realize that my brain doesn't always think his way, right? So the cool part about Conor is that he's very analytical and he can do coding and programming and numbers and data and find solutions, and you can actually have a conversation with people too, which is kind of rare whenever you get into those types of skills. So today was interesting because usually we work really, really well together, but first it started with you being hungry. So you're already hot and then he was hungry. So learning how to get him fed.
It was 84 degrees at 7:30 this morning. That doesn't need to happen. I mean, I couldn't sit out and enjoy my cigar. I mean, I sat out and had my cigar and my tea, but it was 84 degrees.
Hot tea on a hot day.
Course.
It's an Irish thing, I think.
Yeah,
I think it's all Irish. I don't know. They do that over there.
So I've got a process when I do things, A to Z, and I know how to get from A to Z. And if I have to explain how to get there and all the different letters in between, I'm okay running through that the first time.
Yeah.
The second time, it might be A, G, S, Z. Get there. Figure it out. Put the fucking things in the middle of it and just get it done.
Yeah.
And by the third time, this is what I want and don't ask me again. And it usually takes me a while to ramp up to that, but today it started with A to Z. This is the answer. Figure it the fuck out.
Yeah. So if you guys agree with that, go ahead and put some statuses in the comment. I think sometimes what happens is everybody does things their own way, right? So there's a way, there's multiple ways to do things, but as a husband and wife team, one thing that we try to give each other a little bit of space. Today did not go as well as normal. Hey Gary, how are you?
Hi, Gary.
Is we allow the other person to do the thing their way, right? So I know he has a specific way of doing things, so I tried to communicate communicate in his language and what he wants and how he's going to get to A, B, and C.
Try to stay out of my way.
I do leave him alone in the back a little bit. We did transform that. What was that, in February, March? We realized that he needed his own space. Before, we have an open floor plan, so we just had a desk tucked against the wall, and we actually didn't realize energy-wise, he doesn't like people walking up behind him, and he doesn't like people over their shoulder. But here's the kicker. Conor stands over my shoulder all the time at my desk. So
because Kim works on a computer that's this big, and then has a monitor right beside her that's this freaking big.
I work on the
every
monitor
time you want to show me something,
this is
it's
so
like
funny.
on this
See,
freaking screen.
he's like wound up today. He's wound up. So
it's
no,
been
I
a day.
actually, you've actually taught me. I work on my monitor a lot now, so I will take that golden star.
Well, you go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I got a golden star. Yay! But yeah, so it's a matter of like letting the other person do the things the way that they want to do them, but then still honoring that there's deadlines. I mean, the crazy part about it is even with you being hot today and not so warm and fuzzy.
I'm hot every day.
Oh my God. Oh, this is where Todd would like me to pet you. So every time you make a compliment of yourself, I'm supposed to pet you.
Yeah,
and I pet him when he was hot, so that's a big thing. That's a big deal.
It's big right now.
So anyway, I lost my train of thought. You made me lose my train of thought. I think like, oh yes, I know what I was going to say.
Sure.
So even with it being hot, and even with you ruffling your feathers a little, he got a lot of shit done today. And by shit, I mean awesome stuff. It's not necessarily like shit as in it's down.
Some of it's mundane, it's just repetitive, but it is what it is.
You did. You chunked through like 90% of your list today, and it is only 2:37, so that's pretty cool.
So that means just log out and go home.
No. That's where the boss comes out at me. I'm like, no, we have more we got to do. It's only Friday. It's only Friday. But you will get the weekend, and then you also have a holiday coming up, too. So.
Yeah, I get to listen to the neighbors explode things in the driveway that don't actually make it up into the sky.
I feel like Conor's going to have a rant video coming out soon for you
honestly,
guys.
what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to take the GoPro out and film the kid getting his hand blown off. Because seriously, that's what's going on. Seriously, that's going to happen again this year.
They're just having fun. They're just having fun.
You know, they can have fun during the day. You don't need to be doing it at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, our dogs don't like it very well.
No.
Our whole household. So I like
the house
boost all the
shakes.
energy. I know. I try to boost all the energy.
Computer on that.
Anyway, okay. So to rewind all of that, because we do focus on husband and wife team as well as business and all that jazz. But you were able to get some new information that business owners should know about. Within whether it's Google updates or there was a couple other things. And interesting enough, guys, so one of the things that happens is I can go out and do research. I'm snorting. I could go out and do research, but the thing is like I sometimes can get very bombarded with the amount of information that's there. And Conor has this way of being able to like scan a page and like figure out, is it worth anything, is it not? And then so sometimes what happens is, since that's his strength, I'll like lean on him to find information. So I actually gave him some tasks on a couple of things that we're looking to test and try. So do you mind sharing some details? The first is Google.
Yeah, so I've got some stuff I'm not going to share right now.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah,
he didn't want me to give his magic tips away. Hey, Casey, how are you?
All right,
so there were some Google
updates.
updates.
Let's do some SEO recap, web design, internet crap that's actually happening. Yesterday, let's just start with Amazon and.
Yeah, that was a big. There was the Facebook just exploded with that whole shenanigans.
So Amazon purchased PillPack, and PillPack delivers prescriptions and that kind of stuff, door-to-door prescriptions. Walgreens, CVS, and somebody else, Rite Aid probably.
Yep. So
their stock just dropped like a stone, really, and they lost a couple $2 billion in a handful of hours. It was kind of shocking.
Mm-hmm.
The shocking information for me that came out today was that PillPack actually had approached Walmart, and Walmart was going to purchase them. Walmart lowballed the offer at like $700 million or something like that. And anyway, Amazon ended up coming in buying them instead. And the Walmart stock took a $3 billion hit.
Yeah.
So they probably should have ordered or recommended just a little bit more money. So that's going on out there. Of course, Amazon is now doing the delivery stuff, and you can now be a franchise person with Amazon if you want to be a franchise.
Hey, Meredith, how are you?
Hello, Meredith. They gave out some pricing of what it is you can actually make and what your annual salaries might be and stuff like that. But kind of deals with the Amazon Flex, and that's another way of doing driving. So anyway, that's all that crap that happened there with Amazon. There's other stuff that went on. Google has announced that,
real quick before you go through there, I think it's important to say, like, a lot of people are like anti-Amazon right now, and I get it, I understand it. I'm not gonna not honor that or respect that.
I don't understand it.
But the thing is like, this has been in works for a while. So like these talks, like whether it's the pill prescription or not, the benefit side, which I was actually shocked that you shared with me yesterday, and I don't know how much of this is valid or not valid, but there's where you can invest in, I think it was $10,000 with Amazon, and then you can actually create your own delivery team with your own vehicles and fleets, basically. And I think you said something this morning, like they announced that you can make up to $310,000 a year, based on how you build your team, and you would be responsible for that and all that jazz. And so like the thing that like caught my attention was there's so many people that want to get into business, and sometimes they don't have necessarily a specific skill. Like we have a skill that we do and we've mastered. Other people, maybe it's coaching, or maybe it's like energy, or maybe it's like they just want to do car detail or something like that. But sometimes people just don't really know what they want. So a franchise option would be a great deal, because usually they set up the program and here's how you run it, and then you still have some freedom. But most franchises out there now don't start at the price bracket of $10,000. Now, I'm not saying that it's valid in what the cost is. This is just hearsay, basically, from what I've heard. I don't know the logistics, but I think
press release. So
I think it might actually give some people an opportunity to kind of like get their foot in the door of being a business owner specifically. And when you walk into the stores, at least for me specifically, I see a lot like there's less items. There's more people doing like they're ordering it from the store, right? So like while it is Amazon specifically, I wouldn't see it not hitting all the retail stores as well and going a contract route. So very abstract like situation. If you are in a business that's getting hit based on this, you know, we definitely have you in our thoughts with the transition, but I don't necessarily think it's always a bad thing, right? Like I don't think it's necessarily like
so the way I look at it, I mean, from my own angle on it, it's competition, survival of the fittest. If you have a better product, you're going to beat the competition. The thing
that I'm excited about it, though, specifically, though, is that, like, my mom lives in a very, very small town, right? And there's not a lot of deliveries. So this is actually going to possibly open the gates for them to get delivery in their small rural towns, or whatever that word is. So anyway, enough on that part. What else did you find that would help business owners in marketing specifically? Google updates?
Yeah, nothing really to help anybody. How about that? No, there's always something.
Well, I have something that pissed me off today.
Well, we're not going to go there yet.
Okay. So. I was pretty shocked.
You're going to let me talk before you start talking.
Yeah, go.
So one of the big things that happened, one of the big things that happened yesterday, basically, Google has announced that they are now rebranding their Google AdWords to now just be called Google Ads, which is how we've referred to Google AdWords for the last 10 years. It's been Google Ads. But the concept, or their path, being that AdWords is more than just the text ads on the search results. The AdWords get shown inside of YouTube videos.
Thanks for joining, guys.
It gets shown on the emails. It gets shown all different places. It's on your freaking Google Assistant on your phones. So now it's just being called Google Ads. And, you know, so they're going to put a couple $1 million into rebranding something that everybody's just going to keep calling AdWords.
Right.
But it will be nice when you get all those kind of things all together. They're going to merge all the dashboards into one, and you'll be able to manage everything from one spot.
Because they did change their reports and all that layout stuff not that long ago.
So the Google Ads and Google AdWords Express, that was been out about 2 years. They've redone their dashboard. Their dashboard's actually, you know, a lot of people love it. And people who've been in the industry a long time hate it. So the agencies don't like it right now, and it's mainly because it's new, it's different. They've removed some of the tools that I rely on a regular basis. Now you can still get to the information. It's just no longer in the dashboard. You just have to remember what the URL was. So they've said that by the middle of July, everybody will be on the new dashboard. So if you haven't switched over to that, you'll want to do it.
Yeah.
Start getting
Get familiar with it now.
And at least you have the option to go back and forth.
And maybe that's like, I don't know if this would be open for you guys if you're interested, but maybe what we can do is possibly do like a small 1 hour walk them through the new dashboard, and we can do it at a pretty reasonable cost for you guys. So if that's of some interest, go ahead and put a comment down below in the video, and if we get a certain percentage of people that are interested, yeah, that's something that we can look at.
Sure.
Again, like Conor said, it's going to be a forced change. So either you change it now and get familiar with it, or you wait until Google says, hey, we're switching you master, and then you might be lost in the weeds a little bit. There's a lot of people I know that are not even familiar with dashboards in general, or they don't even have Google Analytics installed on their websites.
Yeah, well, and the Google Analytics is always interesting. You know, it's one of the first things I ask for, because I'm able to tell, you know, where your traffic is coming from, how long people are on the page, and so forth.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't, you know, when you're first setting up a website, a lot of people say, well, don't bother with analytics because I'm not doing any marketing right now. I've already spent my budget.
Yeah.
But
that's not the best practice, though.
No, it's not at all. I mean, the thing is that the analytics is free. It's 4 lines or 8 lines of code. It's just copy, paste, and you're done.
Right.
The advantage being that you can come back a year from now and look back and see what's happening in the last year. So even if you don't look at the reports, it's still good to have in there. Now, as a business owner, you should be looking at your reports monthly, quarterly, compare year over year, and so forth. So.
And I would say, like, as starting a business, like, sometimes people decide not to do Google Analytics because they assume that nobody's going to come to their website right away. My golden rule is automatically just prepare for success, right? So go ahead and get it installed. The tool's free. You add the code. We could add the code for you, but that's not really a sales pitch that we're trying to go after here. It's more knowledge and data. But go ahead and put it in, and then try not to get your feelings hurt, or try to just stay neutral until you can build up your traffic. Once you build your traffic up, you can actually get down and dirty in the details. Specifically, you know, we had a couple clients in the last couple weeks like that asked us to come in and drill down and find out what device are people on, what time frame, what age demographic. So there's multiple cool things in the Google Analytics. Plus, you could figure out where do people land within your site and where are they going? Do they drop off right away? Do they not? So it's actually a really cool site it's a cool resource to have, and you might as well have it, right? Because here's the other thing too, is if you're doing marketing with somebody, whether it's TV, radio, advertisement, magazines, and they're supposed to be pushing traffic to your site, you can actually check to see, are they doing their job, and are you receiving what they're actually saying? So we had, like, last year, we had a couple businesses, they wound up onboarding with us, but they took the report that the salesperson came into and said, you got all of this traffic, and then we looked at their Google Analytics and put them side by side, and it was like it wasn't even a fraction of
one of the things that I do, you know, when I look at analytics, one of the first things I do is anybody who's been on the website for less than 30 seconds, I discount right away.
Right.
Because if somebody's not going to spend, like, let's say an e-commerce website, you've done the job of getting people to the website. If somebody's not spending 30 seconds on the page, in my eyes, they're not a real person.
Right.
Now, there could be 2 reasons they're not a real person. One could be that it's a robot or a spider and all that kind of fun stuff out there.
Right.
The other could be they leave your website, or they're leaving your website in 30 seconds because the website doesn't appeal to them. The information is not
Or
correct.
they can't find what they're looking for.
Yeah. So we were working with from an AdWords end of things. You're paying for the ads. The people are coming in on the website specifically for the keywords you're going after.
Yeah.
And if they're leaving in less than 30 seconds and you were paying for that visit, there's a problem.
Yeah.
So they're not getting what they need.
So here's the deal is I'm not going to say the name of the company, but my mom was needing a memory card for her phone. So I'm going out, finding her phone style, and I land on a big box store. It's a cell phone carrier, right? That's all I'll say. So anyway, I'm trying to find this memory card for the cell phone area, right? And so instead of me searching the site and coming up with memory cards, instead they're trying to offer value. So they give me all the tutorials on how to insert a memory card, right? And I was like, man, I find this ironic. I actually want to spend money and buy one, but instead I'm just getting the directions, right? So it's so funny because I was like, okay, well, I'll read through here and see, are there links? And it actually said purchase, it was something about like purchase your memory card here for the specific phone here. So there was 2 links. And when I clicked on both links, it took me right back to their homepage. I was so mad. I was so mad. And here's the reason why I was mad, right? So not only was I the end user that was like searching for a specific thing to purchase it, but then in addition to it, they like put the text on there with the links to lead the path. Because that's one thing when we design websites that we talk to people about is like carry your end user all the way through. But like if you're going to create a link, create the link so they can take immediate action and immediate purchase. And instead they took me right back to the homepage. I was so frustrated. Guess what I was? I was one of those 30 seconds or less bouncers, right? So I loaded it and then I went away and I was like, you know what? No. So another place actually earned my business today. So it was like super frustrating. And again, like what was it? A couple weeks ago, it was like the travel business. So it's almost like these big box companies. I don't know if it's like their own end users don't go through the path, right, of their own website.
It's not paying attention.
Yeah, it's not tested.
Here's my
Hey,
take
Ashley.
on that. Hello, Ashley. My take on it is that if a user comes to your website and let's say they land on your homepage and they go to an inside page, or they just land on the inside page, there should never, ever, ever be a reason for somebody to go back to your homepage.
Very correct.
The homepage is the door to your store.
Yeah.
It is not a selling tool. It is not anything like that. So if they're landing on an inside page, they need to be going through the process of, what's the next step, and then how do I get to checkout, or am I picking up the phone and calling?
The only thing that I would adjust is I do feel like the homepage could be a sale thing.
It could be a sale.
Because they might do advertisement on something else or have the website on their business card, right? And then come into it. But I do agree with what you said.
Yeah, what I mean from the sale end, it's like the front door of your business.
Yes.
It's the welcoming of everybody coming in. But the moment you've already welcomed them in, you're not going to follow them around the store and keep saying, welcome to the store.
Right. And the crazy thing for me is I was looking for a specific thing already in the mind of wanting to purchase. And they tried. I landed on a tutorial, which kudos to them for wanting to educate their clientele, right? But then they lost the sale because they didn't actually put me into where could I purchase. And this happens a lot. Like a lot of times business owners don't think this through. So if you're looking, we always say when you design a website to try and figure out what is the objective of the website. If you're looking to schedule appointments, you need to have the functionality or ability for people to schedule appointments within your website design, right? And some people, some businesses, what they do is they just say, well, I'll just take a contact page and a contact form, right? So like,
or my phone number is in the bottom and my address is on the bottom.
Yeah.
And I don't need to put a call to action anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, yes, you do. You look at any of the ads, if you look at some of the bigger businesses and whatnot, they'll all say, click here to do X, Y, Z, or download our white paper or whatnot. So there's always that call to action, even though we all know, we're supposed to click the little link with the blue underline or whatever else. Yeah. Even though we know that that's what we're supposed to do, they still say, and we still say, click here.
I think people just like to be led through the follow. I just think that they like to be trailed through. Sometimes people shop whenever their brain's just filled with stuff. So them being able to read, just click here, helps them be able to purchase.
It's like zombie marketing. Maybe I can coin that and work on that. Nobody steal my idea.
No. Okay, so what else did you find out this week in your research? Because you had a lot going on.
A ton of stuff. So there's a bunch of stuff WordPress related. Yoast came out with an update on the 26th. Yeah. So they had 4.7.0 was released on the 26th, and I put out a notice on Facebook. Right. Please don't update it. It's not ready.
Casey likes your zombie
marketing. I know. If you go register that before I do, Casey.
Go register it.
I'm coming to find you.
Go register it. Charge him a beer.
Yeah. Sell it back to me. So anyway, Yoast the 4.7.0 came out on the 26th. Yeah. And I put up a posting and said, do not, it's not ready for prime time. Yeah. So that was on the 26th. On the 27th, they released 4.7.1 with a bunch of bug fixes. And I'm still holding my breath and saying, no. I mean, there's a handful of things in it that just didn't line up. So that was on the 26th, the 27th. On the 29th, which is today, they just released another update. Yeah. So as of today, my do not install, do not update, I'm going to lift that.
Yeah.
And yes, go ahead and install it. It's actually pretty cool.
You'll need to put a status out. So something that we're changing just a little bit, guys, and bear with us as we try to figure this out. We are going to be doing social media on the Big Red SEO page, but we're also going to be promoting within our personal page, because what we find is, as you guys know, social media has different algorithms and stuff like that, but sometimes people forget that we're website designers and SEO pay-per-click, or I'm sorry, AdWords, Google AdWords specifically, experts. So we're trying to dabble in both spots. So if you don't already follow our Facebook on Big Red SEO, go ahead and do that. But we're also going to try and cross-post and cross-share in our personal, so you guys have that as well. Because there's a lot of shifting and changing coming down the pipeline, right? It's not necessarily, I don't know of anything that's super scary or that you should be detrimental about. There's actually some really exciting stuff coming down the pipeline that we're super excited about. Basically what it's going to do is, if you're an agency, or if you're somebody like us, or you're a freelancer, you're going to have to learn to pivot and shift. That's the easiest way to say it. So if you are in the business that's similar to ours, or you're in marketing, or you're doing anything, we just recommend hone in on who you believe your ideal client is and start to package and market those specific things. And just get ready to ride the bull for the full 8 seconds or more, because it's going to be quite interesting how it shifts. Like for us, we've been at this gig 8 years now. I kept saying 7 like videos before. I get lost in time, but people kept telling us throughout the entire process, SEO is dead. And we actually got a phone call from somebody who was like an acquaintance that was like, hey, so sorry to hear about the SEO industry going down. You know, I wish you guys the best of luck.
Because like 5 years ago.
Yeah, he thought our business was going to go out of business in like the next 30 days because he talked to somebody else that supposedly knew SEO and knew some kind of insider tip trick.
They were an inside guy at Google.
Yeah. And then so it was like, we just kind of said, oh, okay, great. That's nice. That's cute. We carried on. And so when he followed back up 2 years later to basically work with us, it was like one of those awkward conversations of, hey, we're still open. We're still here. So
and now you want to hire us.
I just think like, just in general, like things are going to adapt and they're going to change, but just stick with it, especially if you're in your own business. Hone in on whoever your ideal client is and try to craft that message for them. You might still get other business as you're building that specific message, and that's good. Go for that. You know, you're always looking to adapt and change. So I guess that's the biggest part.
With all of that, the one
thanks for joining, guys. Hey,
there,
Jeremy, how are you?
Hey, Jeremy. Actually, Jeremy, this is perfect timing for you because this comes directly from the video I watched with you.
Oh, is this the Jeremy I like?
Yes.
Oh, hi, Jeremy.
As opposed to the Jeremy that you don't like.
Wait, no, is this the one that caught the fly? Is he the one that tried to catch the fly? Yes. Jeremy, is that you? You caught the fly? Like he was so smooth when he did it too. He was like calm, chatting, and then caught the fly, and then he paused, and then he carried on. Oh, that is you. Aw,
so,
I love it.
Anyway, one of the conversations we were having within his video, Jeremy, for everybody else who's on here, Jeremy runs a program, and it's probably better if you explain it inside of the comment chat. The comment chat.
Because Conor's gonna botch it.
I'm gonna screw your business completely up. But anyway, he trains salespeople, and then he works with sales processes in how to. Oh,
that was perfect. We were just talking about ideal clients. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, anyways. So that's what Jeremy's doing. So people click on that and go watch his videos, learn his stuff, and kind of go from there. So where I was going with your comments about the pivot and changing and where all that's at, it was the race to the bottom. And by that, what I'm talking about is the offering of coupons, the offering of discounts, and then what basically happens after that point. So basically from there, I mean, you've got to be careful what you do. I worked with a water park, and we've got a handful of people on here that I've known over the years that have worked at the water park with me. But I worked at a water park back in the mid-'90s, and the owner of the water park decided, the admission price was $16.95, and they decided, well, we're going to run a local special, and the price was now $9.95 for locals. That ran all summer long, and that was awesome. We had a ton of people, lots of recurring visitors. The next year came around, and the price went up to $19.95, but locals were still $9.95. And how awesome is that? We had a packed summer. We had lots of people inside the water park, and that was great. On the third year, the owner decided, I'm not going to run the discount because I'm losing my ass on this. You know, we've got 1,500 people in the park, and I'm losing my ass.
Yeah.
So he stopped running that discount, and we had a boycott. We actually,
oh goodness!
people
So it actually
boycotted
boycotted the whole thing. Yeah.
And midway through the summer, he was forced then to reintroduce the $9.95 price for locals in order to get people back into the park. And, you know, we've seen it with other businesses. Disneyland is another one that is famous for
you and the name.
Oh, I'm just name drop everything.
I'm like over here, like my skin is crawling.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Either you're on board or you're not. And if Disney wants to come
so
sue me,
I think at some point, like, and we've had different scenarios and situations. So here's what I'll tell you about what we've done in building our business. When we very first started, we actually looked at the amount of time that it would take for us to build the business, and then since it's two of us working as a team, we can combine that into a specific bill rate. But we did lowball ourselves at the very beginning of our business, and a couple of reasons why, right? One, we were trying to onboard business, right? So for us, it was more important for us to get some business in the door so we could use for testimonials or use for case studies, or we could give them a discounted rate to get them in the door to get them started, and then satisfy them so they could actually be referrals for existing clients, right? But here's what I will tell you. And we actually stopped that. We stopped it like a year and a half in. And here's what I'll tell you. The type of clientele that we got in for that discount, we had to work 3, 4, 5 times harder. And they always expected more. Now, it's not fully their fault, right? Because we didn't set the boundary and we kind of like gave stuff away. So when you give stuff away consistently all the time, people expect that for free. So we slowly but surely worked on the bill rate that we wanted for our client. And probably the last 2 years, I set a bill rate and I stopped giving discounts. Now, it's still a matter of if we've got some free time and we help a friend out or we help somebody out because we choose to put the time towards it, that's a whole nother story, right? We don't have any expectations of getting paid back. We're just doing something just because we can. But I work with a lot of business owners specifically, and they're trying to launch their business, and the first thing they go and do is look at the competition. What is the competition charging? My personal opinion on that, if you base your pricing off everybody else, you're not seeing what your value is, right? So like when I do coaching, I'm $150 to $250 an hour. And the reason for that is because I invest in myself and I make sure that I'm clean and clear myself, and I'm doing the practice, and I'm going out and getting the techniques and the tips and the strategies and all the different stuff to bring it back. And I know that I'm going to be able to help somebody transform not only their life and their business, if that makes sense. Now, you look at that bill rate with local coaches here in Omaha, it's like not even close, right? So in different people will do their pricing differently. That's a different side gig that I do. But even with our business with Big Red SEO, like I value this dude's time and his brain, and I value our skills and our brain. And I would say in the last year to 2 years, we've had people like balk at our pricing, but they weren't really the right synergy.
Yeah,
right?
If somebody's having a problem with the pricing, they're probably not the right fit. And it is what it is. And that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Not everybody is going to be the right fit. But that being said, even from the coaching end of things, you know, you're getting some pushback here in the local market of Omaha, but the gal in Colorado, it's not a problem at all. The people in California,
so here's the deal: is I don't know how to express it into the right words. My advice for everybody would be figure out what value you offer, and don't fucking just create a price out of your ass because you want to be a millionaire, right? You have to be able to back that up. You have to be able to back the skills up. Remove the get rich and get quick. However, if you have a skill, and Meredith, you're one of them, if you have a skill and you have honed that skill and you are worth what you know how you're going to transform them, whether it's a website design, social media, whatever it is, stand behind that and stand behind the value. Because we've even had people in the last 3 to 4 months come back and ask us for a discount because we had a bid up against somebody else. And I just flat out asked them, is the discount worth you losing our business? Right? Yes. And Conor was like, what the fuck did you just say? And I'm like, no, at the end of the day, we would be getting business from them. But by them asking for a discount after us crystal clear saying, hey, we don't price gouge. We don't add extra fluff. Instead, we do this, and we had a really, really great meeting. We won the deal, right? Yep. Like they came back and said, we respect you saying that. And I just refuse.
And from that, you know, maybe maybe the person does want the coupon or does want the discount, but maybe it's not about getting the discount. Maybe it's literally about funds.
Right.
Maybe, you know, if you're wanting to spend $500 for something and I've got $300 in my pocket now, and next week I'll give you $100 and the week after.
Here's what I'll tell you with that. So
maybe that works.
Yeah. So a payment arrangement is a little different. In most cases, we require payment up front, but we've offered payment arrangements for people. But here's the deal. In every situation, so here, I guess the reason why I'm so like about this is because we lived through
I was antsy earlier.
Yeah.
And then I got Kimberly.
No, we lived through it, right? So we lived through, literally, this is the easiest way to say it. We lived through the hell we created ourselves, right? So this is why I'm opening my heart and sharing it. There are some times within business where we might have needed fast cash, right? We needed money coming in the door, and then a project would be 500, and they'd say, hey, we got 300 cash. We would take that. Here's the deal. We would take it, and that project would go so wonky. I mean, so wonky, it would cost us 4 times the amount. I'm like, and I'm huge on energy, right? So
or
like
9 months later.
It just morphed into something that was like not even supposed to be where it was at. And then so a couple of those underneath our belt, and we learned really quick, right? Like you learn really, really quick.
And it all depends on the project being done.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing plug-in updates on WordPress, you know, those price points are fairly low down. If I'm doing a full-on web design and e-commerce store, I mean, you're moving that price tag up. You know, that's Jeremy talked about the setting the price and moving the prices and stuff like that. That it doesn't happen. We actually this week we experienced our price was 1,000% more.
Yeah, that was like crazy. So here's the deal: is I went to San Diego last week, and I was able to work with one of my teachers for the weekend, right? And I'm not going to share specifically what she said because it's her own skill, right? But it was really, really a great thing. And one of the things that's new for me is going out and asking for the sale. And I get it; it's part of the stuff that you should know, right? But I was like kind of tiptoeing around and not really asking. So I finally asked for the sale, and we were over 1,000% more
than what they're currently
paying, right? And we were all like, "What in the world?" Like,
and here's the thing: we didn't blow the price up. This was our.
And it wasn't a hard sale either. Nope. So like that's the other part too, right? Like in sales specifically, it's like you can't like be sticky in sales. Like just I don't know, like for me, I'm like, I don't want to be sold to. I want to be solution provided, and then I'm going to get the gut feeling of, is it worth investing, is it not? And I can feel when people do their craft and do what they say that they're going to do. Now, granted, at the end results, it's kind of a gamble. Are you a gambler or are you not? And then there's some accountability for the person that's actually purchasing whatever that service is in either stating the expectations or not, right? So we just totally went on a rant on that. Oh, that's so funny. But here's a caveat I will say. On my coaching mentoring side. When I know I'm going out of town and I'm working with specific teachers, especially with energy, I actually throw my students out a specific promotion, and it's usually time stamped, time labeled. So it'll be 24 hours to 36 hours, and I do that to push energy out, and then they wind up purchasing so I can get them clean and clear because I know I'm going to work on energy myself. So that's like one caveat I will say is a little bit different. Plus it helps with cash flow whenever you're traveling and you're like, hey, I'm going to go to this thing, and then you get some chump change in. But that's one caveat I'd say it's a little bit different. But when it comes to our main brand from SEO and web design, I don't do that at all. Not at all. Not at all. Hopefully that helped you guys. So what other things do you have from Google specifically?
Nothing crazy from Google. Google has kind of been quiet all week, really.
So one question I have for you. Hey, Mammy, how are you? One question I have for you. We got a call earlier this week of somebody asking us how important Bing is still in the whole game. So do you want to give some feedback on that?
Yeah, so, well, you dealt with the phone call, so do you
I know, but I don't know if I can do it properly because I was a little mad.
Yeah, Kim was a little pissed. She came and talked to me. Can you believe what this guy said?
I wrote an article and Conor was like, do not put that on social media.
Yeah, I had to read the
It's been a
article. I'm
while.
like, yeah, that is not getting posted. But essentially, really what had gone on was that he'd called up. Now, there were a couple of red flag giveaways that we really, you should have just at that point started.
Hey, Chad, how are you?
But they'd called up. They were asking some generic questions. As you got to the end of the call, now I'm going to work backwards, but as you got to the end of the call, you asked, I can't give a whole lot of specifics because I still don't know your company name and I don't know what the industry is that you're in.
Yeah.
At which point he said, oh, look, I've got a client coming in. I gotta go.
Click.
So,
And I felt like I was recorded, which is not a good feeling for me.
So the thing is that if you're going to ask somebody for advice on how to do something in a particular market, you've kind of got to give a little bit more details than just, well, I'm a business and I sell widgets. That doesn't work. But the question was on his end was that they had done some really bad stuff years ago. And they
you
have
see
a
my
lot
face?
of,
I'm like,
they had a lot of negative reviews. They had a lot of bad press out there and so forth. So over the last year or two, I believe you said, that he'd been basically pushing a ton of content that had been slowly outranking everything else. And the complaint was that Google, in his eyes, had forgiven him.
And by forgiven just means he created content to push the not so nice bad stuff down. If that makes sense, because it's like less than 0.4% that people go to page 2.
It's
something like
really
that. It's a really small
percentage,
percentage, unless they're specifically looking for a specific thing.
So anyway, he'd been able to get Google to kind of push things down, but Bing wasn't picking up on the new stuff, and he was still ranked at the very top with all this negative publicity about his business. So essentially he was just, saying, what the hell and why isn't this working? So Kim went through her thing of, Google and Bing and Yahoo and Ask and
AOL, DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, DuckDuckGo and
them.
Yandex. They're all using different systems, different algorithms. So just because you clean something up in one doesn't mean that it's automatically going to happen with all of them. And that's fine. We all understand that. So the issue becomes from there.
Hey, Kirsten, how are you?
I just got lost. Sorry.
So here's
So the thing was that, is Bing important at all? And his answer is no. So he's asking the question and giving the answer at the same time. That doesn't work in my book, but whatever. Let's play along, okay?
Well, that's the whole thing in the whole scenario. I did not play along. And here's the reason why. The general scope of everything is every search engine is going to be different. We follow the rules, best practices of Google because they're the hardest and they're the toughest, right? That doesn't guarantee that if we get ranked whatever in Google that it's going to cross flow in all the other search engines, right? Specifically, the thing that kind of like steered me a little bit and got the irritated was he said that Bing wasn't important at all or wasn't irrelevant, right? And at the end of the day, that's not true. That's actually not true. There's actually a certain percentage of millennials that use Bing right now, and the older generation uses Bing right now. And a lot of times, if you purchase brand new equipment, Bing is installed by default. So
since Internet Explorer is installed, or Edge, or whatever name they want to call it this month. So since that's installed, generally people won't go the next step and install Chrome,
or Safari or whatever else that they want to use. But the whole point in the scenario is a lot of the information was not valid right out the gate. And if you are going to call somebody for specific information, I would prefer people to just be open and honest and say, hey, this is what I got, this is the scenario, here's the situation. But I guess the roundabout is don't automatically exclude Bing out of the equation. Yahoo, I wouldn't even exclude Yahoo yet. Granted, their market share is not very high, and there's a lot going on. There is a benefit of making sure that your information is out there and accurate all across the board. One specific thing that I shared with him is, while Google, and this is a full assumption, but while Google is big on offering value and indexing information for end users, it could very well be that Bing is more focused on customer service. So maybe they want to be able to show people, hey, maybe you shouldn't do business with this person if they have bad stuff that they've done, and we're going to keep it up at the top so you know that. I mean, again, that's a huge assumption, but that could be one of the things that did happen, right?
And going from the SEO angle of things, or your target demographic. I mean, in any marketing, you should know who your target demographic is. We build what's called a persona.
Yeah,
and
or personas, depending on how
personas,
many.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So you figure out what the path and what the lifeline of your customer looks like. But with Edge and with Bing and all that,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of government places, a lot of hospitals, a lot of schools, they don't put Chrome in. So
Right.
if you're targeting for those kind of things, you're targeting the city workers. Maybe you are a contractor that prints T-shirts, and you want that contract with the city to print out shirts. You got to make sure that you're ranking in Google, but also inside of Bing.
Yeah,
So
different people do use different things. Like, that's the whole point across it. Don't eliminate one versus another.
So is Bing relevant? Yes, it is.
Yes.
Just depends on your target market.
Yeah. One other thing that I think a lot of people forget about is every single business has an opportunity to have a Google My Business page. This is whenever you search for anything or business-wise, it kind of kicks off to the right, and you can actually put images, videos, contact information. But one thing that businesses forget about is you can actually customize your hours. And so since we have a holiday next week, if you are closed for 4th of July, make sure you update that you're going to be closed for 4th of July. Google does give a little of a boost if you keep those hours updated. So if you know that you're going to be on vacation and you're not going to be in the office, if you go in and you update those hours within the office time frame, or maybe you're just closed on Fridays or Saturdays and Sundays, it is an option, and people forget to update their hours and information. Also update your images and your photos.
Yeah, and this is more from the customer service end of things.
Yeah.
None of that stuff is going to directly affect your rankings or positions in Google. So updating with the correct time. If you're a chiropractor and you're open from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. and then you close and then you open up again at 3 p.m., make sure you put that 2-hour block in there, you're closed. Because all you're going to do is piss off the user, and that trickles back.
But here's a
Google
scenario and situation, and here's where I'm pushing it. It is customer service focused, but if I'm an end user looking for a gym, right, and it happens to be on 4th of July, I'm looking for a gym, I don't have a membership. I could go in and type gyms in Omaha or whatever, and if 4 out of the 5 gyms are closed, I'll go to the open one so I don't drive out of my way to the closed one, right? And then that specific operation would earn my business. So it's kind of abstract, but I also think it's very important to look at it that way.
Take that to the next level. You're dealing with restaurants or dealing with anything like that. You go to the place, let's say the gym, for example, the 4th of July. So you drive your happy ass down to the gym down there.
Instead of walk. He would tell me to walk. If you're going to the gym, just walk.
Yeah, forget the treadmill, just walk down there. And then when you get there, turn around and come back, because you've already been gone for an hour, and that's total time at the gym.
Yeah.
But anyways, so if you do get in your car and you drive down to whatever gym and you get there and the doors are closed, one of the things people are going to do is jump on their phone and leave a review about how the business didn't update their hours, and now you get a 1-star review. And those negative reviews over time are going to pile up.
You know, people do like to do that. I don't agree
There
with
are
that,
more people that put negative reviews than put positive.
I know.
So any little chance somebody gets, if Village Inn doesn't have meringue pie for me on a Wednesday.
Oh, no, stop it. You love those people over there. Don't be like that. Don't be like that. Yeah, they are very good.
They are good.
Very good. A couple other things, business-wise, that we highly recommend. In your email program, put your email signature at the bottom of your email, as well as make sure that your reply has a signature. But most importantly, make sure the phone number's in there. It's one of the pet peeves that we have on our end, and believe it or not, people never do it. So like if you're asking people to submit a credit card payment, or you're asking them to pay an invoice and you don't have a phone number so they can call you, and instead they have to go search for their phone number, they're not going to call.
And on that track, if you send me an email that just says, call me, I'm having problems, and then there is no signature, and you didn't put in what the phone number was, now I've got to open up my fucking mail program, go through all my contacts, figure out at what point in time might you have used a signature that I can then grab the phone number, or open up our contact system and go from there. I'm going to spend 7 minutes doing that part, and I'm going to charge you for it. So
it's one of the things that is kind of like, it's like not there. The other thing too is, we heard this again, if your phone rings or you're looking for phone calls, answer the phone. I mean, I get that like people are in summer, but we've seen specifically a lot of businesses. They're like, oh, I want business, I want money, I want business, I want money, I want opportunities, and then they let the calls go to voicemail. Believe it or not, if you can get people on the phone and you can have that connection and have that conversation, you have a higher chance of converting it in. And I think this is where Patrick would be able to help, or Jeremy would be able to help. But the whole point of it is make sure that you actually pick up the phone and follow through on emails, or if they submit a request. Believe it or not, it's one of the things that people forget about. Like they just say, oh, well, I'll follow up in 3 business days, and somebody's already made a decision.
You stand a really high percentage, and I don't know what the number is.
Yeah.
But there's 2 numbers that I know that stood out to me. One was 20 minutes, and the other was 40 minutes. So returning a phone call within 20 minutes guarantees you this much more of a chance of being able to close that sale.
Yeah.
The 40 minutes has to do with email, getting an email response or returning a phone call after receiving that email. Getting that response out within 40 minutes, you stand a much higher chance. Once you reach into the hour, everything starts to go downhill. Yeah. It's like a murder after 48 hours.
Oh my gosh! Like, he totally took it a different way. I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, what? I'm like, no. So anyway, we hope you guys have a great weekend. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. I know the holidays in the middle of the week next week, so I'm not sure if people are taking off the whole entire time. If you do, make sure you recharge your batteries, right? That's always important. And also be very, very open to possibly receiving some ideas. Again, we're huge fans of carrying a notebook around, and if you have ideas that come up, jot them down. Sometimes what happens is whenever we create space within our day, or we do something different like a holiday weekend situation, you have stuff that comes up, right? You have ideas that come up, and a lot of times people will say, oh no, I'll remember that later. So instead, just make sure you write it down, and then you can always take action on it later in the week. So
I had that situation last night.
Did you?
Yeah.
What'd you do? Do you want to share? Is it X-rated? They want you to share if it's X-rated.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. They don't?
My mom was on here. No, they don't.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure she kind of like expects something. I don't know.
Something bad out of me.
Something.
But no, basically I went to bed and had the thought was all, way earlier in the video, we were talking about different new things that were coming down the pipe. And I had a handful of ideas on campaigns, and I didn't write it down.
And you lost it.
Yes.
That's the thing about it, guys. The inspiration, like the muse will come, and if you don't like tap it down, it's.
So about an hour and a half ago, when you came back,
you got it back.
This and this. I'm like, well, it's not the same, but it's close.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. It was funny. He wouldn't let me see it until it was done. So, hey, Daddy, how are you?
Hello.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up. If you have any questions or comments, Ashley, I know that you said something about questions on there. Do you want to post what you had before we leave, before we wrap up? But if you have any questions or comments that you would like some action or information on, let us know. As you guys know, we are massive connectors, so we know a lot of different businesses in a lot of different industries, and we're happy to provide some introductions. I just think it's
I'll give 2 things while we're waiting around.
Ashley, if you have a question, type it in.
Number 1 is make a backup of your website and your computer. So there's number 1, make a backup. Number 2, it's the beginning of the new month coming up here real quick. So change your passwords.
Changing passwords is big, especially on a holiday. Some people like to get a little crazy on the internet. That's all I can say.
Change your passwords, write it down so you remember it, so that you don't come back into work on Monday and say, what the fuck was I doing?
Yeah, Okay, so it looks like Ashley said that they could be answered anytime.
All right, cool.
Do you have information on Jetpack? Speaking of backup.
Yes, Jetpack, made by Automatic. So the same guys that do WordPress are doing, they make Jetpack. Overall, Jetpack is great to use. I have no major issues with it. The things to be concerned on there is don't enable everything that Jetpack gives to offer. Yeah. So their posts end of things, where you can see related posts. That's awesome, and it is flawless. Yeah. I've been really happy with that. They have a slider thing in there. They have some cache stuff in there. I'm not a big fan of using the image crunching that happens on their end. They store the image. Even with CDNs, so content delivery networks, where the images are stored in those other places, You want those images on your website so that you can get the SEO power for those images. People do search for pictures.
Sure.
So if you start using those CDNs and they're in different places, then that power goes to that different place and not to you. So just be careful on that part. But
so she said rabbit, rabbit in honor of a new month.
Rabbit, rabbit. There you go. Sure. We'll go with that.
What's rabbit, rabbit?
No idea, but we'll go with that.
Rabbit, rabbit.
Rabbit,
Okay.
rabbit.
Okay. And do you have any resources on look at my boobs. Sorry, guys. Do you have any resources on scheduling software? Conor over here is like, yeah, that looks really good.
I'm gonna replay the video.
Do you have any resources on scheduling software with WordPress, something that can align with Google Calendar? That might be something that you need to answer.
Yeah, that'll probably be something I'll need to bring back to you, Ashley.
Good questions.
There are some out there. I haven't had a whole lot of experience with them.
Yeah.
So let me. Yeah, boo.
So I assume that she's asking the question because she has multiple accounts and she's trying to figure how to put it all in one. You guys can have a side conversation on that.
We'll have a side.
And then we could recap next
Maybe
Friday.
she was saying boobs and they just forgot the other B.
Maybe she forgot the other B and the S. There wasn't just one, there was two. Anyway, guys, like
BS.
this is us. This is what we do.
So,
okay.
Anyway, so yes, I will. Let's take that one offline. I'll get you some answers on that, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah. So have a happy Friday. Thanks so much for your time and thanks for joining us. Feel free to connect with each other if you feel like there's synergy, and we will see you next Friday.
And if you were entertained, you can go ahead and share this video.
Yeah, share the video. Especially the boobs. All righty. Talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, guys.